Now, Sonic the Hedgehog has had a rough transition into 3D gaming. Sonic's first true step into this dimension was Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast in 1998, which saw a deluxe edition made for the GameCube in 2003, and then there were no other 3D Sonic games made. Until now, with the sequel to Sonic Adventure in Sonic Frontiers, released for all current platforms. Okay, so obviously I'm being a bit goofy with that statement, but I have good reason. I've been playing a lot of Sonic Frontiers recently. I fully platinumed the game on PS4, and I had a great time doing so. It was the first 3D Sonic game I've really enjoyed since Generations over a decade ago. But while I was playing, I couldn't help but think about how much of Sonic Frontiers seems to pull from the Sonic Adventure series. I was almost tempted to make the often heard joke that we finally have our Sonic Adventure 3. But that's not quite right, because Sonic Frontiers feels more like a continuation to Sonic Adventure 1, and not 2, to the point that if there really hadn't been any other 3D Sonic game since Adventure 1, then this would feel like a natural evolution of the formula. I think I need to explain, because it's not just the story that feels like a continuation, but the gameplay as well, and I find that really fascinating. And it might go to explain why myself and many Sonic fans have enjoyed this game so much. Just as a heads up, there will be spoilers in this video, it's kind of a necessity. So if you've been trying to avoid any story spoilers, then either click off the video or skip to this point where I focus more on the gameplay. Sonic Adventure's story emphasis was a purposeful decision from the developers of that game, who wanted to flesh out the world of Sonic and explain some of the previously implied, or stated in the game manual, lore. From the classic games, we got introduced to the 7 Chaos Emeralds, that there was a Master Emerald that controlled the 7, that Knuckles was its guardian and the last of his tribe, and that Sonic could somehow use this power and was fated to do so and fight Eggman. Also, we had been introduced to characters like Tails and Amy, who weren't as fleshed out but had little quirks like Amy's love for Sonic and her role as a damsel in distress, and Tails being Sonic's tag-along but also a hero in his own right. These were all plot points that existed, but it never really got explained why the situation was like this, and any deeper thoughts on these characters' roles beyond the surface level. Sonic Adventure set out to fix this, focusing on Sonic, Tails, Knuckles and Amy, and delving into the history of the Master and Chaos Emeralds. We got to find out why Knuckles' race was wiped out, and we get to meet Tikal, the first guardian of the Master Emerald. We learnt that the power of the Emeralds came from Chaos, who was a kind of god, and that the Chows were offshoots from Chaos, and it dug its heels into the idea that Sonic was this ultimate life form on the same level as Chaos, fated to fight him. This is all series lore that was explained for the first time here, but from a character perspective, we had Tails follow behind Sonic as he always does, but when he gets separated, he has to learn to stand up and be a hero just like Sonic, eventually proving himself and saving Station Square. Amy continued to pine after Sonic, but proved that she's no longer a damsel in distress and has her own agency. We got to see Knuckles doing his duty as the defender of the Master Emerald, and the kind of life that has given him, where he sits alone on Angel Island. The series also gives us new perspectives to view the world of Sonic through, Gamma and Big. Now Big just exists for a change up to the gameplay, adding fishing mechanics just to change everything up. He doesn't add much story-wise, but Gamma gives us our first look into things from Eggman's side of the battle. How does Eggman operate behind the scenes, and how do his creations feel about him? It also shows that his creations have their own autonomy and emotions, that Eggman is creating life in a way. Well, sort of. Gamma is really just a Flicky, so it's more like the Flicky's feelings coming through the robot, but still, it was a new perspective. So how does this all relate to Sonic Frontiers? Well, that game really follows up on a lot of the same beats and plot points of Sonic Adventure. The actual Sonic Adventure 2 did as well, but a bit more surface level, having Shadow and the Bio-Lizard be government recreations of Sonic and Chaos from the Mystic Ruins depictions, and Tails continuing to prove he is a hero just as much as Sonic. We finally got to play as Eggman, and get the perspective of his side from the Doctor himself, which helped to humanise him a bit. But really, that's all there is here to connect to the first game. Sonic Frontiers does a lot more. For starters, the cast of Sonic Frontiers is very similar to that of Adventure. While Sonic is the only playable character this time, his companions are Tails, Knuckles and Amy, and each one gets their own storyline and character development that follows on from Sonic Adventure. Tails continues to question his own bravery, wondering if the events of Station Square were really just a one-off call to action for him, and Sonic gives him a pep talk and convinces him that he is a hero, pointing out his various other exploits. While I know this scene is also meant to address Tails' regression in Forces, I do think even if Forces didn't happen, this is still a natural epilogue to his arc, with Tails deciding to leave Sonic at the end and try having an adventure of his own next time. Amy equally goes through a small arc of her own. Her romance with Sonic is downplayed and made less one-sided, and she laments her own uselessness in this situation. She also talks a lot about love and shows compassion for the previous residents. It's not an exact follow-up from Adventure's plot points, but it is a natural one for Amy's character and Sonic and Amy's relationship. And then Knuckles begins to really question his duty this time. Sonic Adventure gave us our first look at that duty, but also the loneliness that comes with it, and this is expanded upon here. Knuckles also finds out a bit more about his culture and the origin of the Emeralds that he has been guarding. In the end, after speaking with Sonic, he realises that there is more to his life than just his duty, and he should consider actually exploring that in the future. It feels like a character arc that should have happened after Sonic Adventure, and just didn't, given that the games after Adventure seem to have Knuckles leave Angel Island on a regular basis. But it's good to have it here now. And speaking of Knuckles and his duty, Frontiers makes a point to really explain the origins of what he's guarding. This game introduces the Ancients, who are revealed to be the same race as Chaos. It explains why the Chaos Emeralds are so connected to him and to the Master Emerald, and reveals that there are more Master Emeralds out there. The story even implies that after the Ancients failed to defeat the End, that a small group of them took the Chaos Emeralds to the Master Emerald and eventually evolved into Chaos, while the original Guardian of the Master Emerald was Chaos, before overexposure to the raw power of the Emeralds caused him to lose his intelligence and eventually become the beast he is later. Sonic Frontiers sets out to explain the history it introduced in Sonic Adventure. Even Tikal is mentioned and briefly seen in spirit form during the prologue animation for the game, and the Tikal mention is a bit more important than many of the other random references that feel like fan service in this game because it's not optional. It's a story cutscene, so greater emphasis is placed on her. In terms of other characters who appear in this game, I don't think it's a coincidence that it's just more analogues to Sonic Adventure. Eggman is back as a villain but sides with the heroes to stop the final big bad, just like in Adventure, and we get a perspective from one of Eggman's creations again. Before, it was Gamma, and this time it's Sage. While their reason for being created, attitude and loyalty are all different, I don't think it's a coincidence that a major player is once again an Eggman creation that's aggressive to Sonic initially but is shown to have emotions and their own autonomy, and is willing to work with Sonic when required. Sage is this game's Gamma, and just as well liked by the community as he was. And then finally, there is Big the Cat, who once again has a fishing minigame, one that is far easier than it was during his debut. This is the first time Big has appeared in a mainline Sonic game since Sonic Heroes, as a key role, not just a cameo, so it's not like he just shows up for any old Sonic game. While I'm sure he is here mainly because of the fishing minigame, the addition of that minigame is in itself a callback to Sonic Adventure. Because it's not just the story that feels like it's following on from that of Sonic Adventure 1, it's the gameplay as well. It has been stated that Sonic Frontiers is the first open world Sonic game, but it's kind of not. It's definitely the most open world Sonic game, but the first was, and say it with me now, Sonic Adventure. While many of its sequels would follow the traditional level-based approach to the game, Sonic Adventure introduced an explorable overworld similar to what Mario did with Peach's Castle. While many might consider these hub worlds and so different from an open world, I would argue that in Sonic Adventure it's big enough and there is enough to do in it that it's more than just a glorified level select. While you do use the overworld mainly to travel from stage to stage, Sonic Frontiers does something similar with its cyberspace levels scattered around the overworld. Sonic Frontiers' world has you meet NPCs, find collectibles, solve puzzles and find power-ups as well, but so does Sonic Adventure. You find emblems scattered about, power-ups for the characters, some of which are hidden, and you can talk to many an NPC. The only major difference is the size and general lack of platforming in Adventure's overworld, although not complete absence of it. Sonic Frontiers gameplay is definitely inspired by open world titles of the modern era, the Breath of the Wild-isms are obvious, but it also takes from Sonic Adventure and expands on it, putting more emphasis and a greater scale on its explorable environments. Sonic's skill tree could even be seen as a more modern take on the power-ups players had to previously seek out. It's honestly just a Chao Garden away from drawing upon every aspect of that game, which really just adds to the pain that the Chao Garden is missing. Sonic Frontiers feels like it's a first attempt at something new, and a lot of fans consider it almost like a beta for a sequel. But in my eyes, Sonic Frontiers is already a sequel, one that does everything you would expect the next game in a series to do. It takes the mechanics and ideas present in that game, expands them and refines them. It just took them 24 years to make it, that's all. Anyway, thank you for coming to my Sonic Talk. Let me know what you think about my observations in the comments down below. A special thank you to all of our patrons. Our $5 and up tier are on screen right now. Have you played Sonic Frontiers? Let me know about your experience with it. I played the PS4 version and had a great time, although the pop-in was quite egregious. And after you've left that comment, remember to subscribe so you can always remember to return to the source.